Welcome to another episode of Discograffiti's wildly in-depth Beach Boys series and Your Dreams Come True, where Brian Wilson freaks like you and me get our chance to delve deep into the barely believable history and prodigious discography of my favorite band of all time, and also coincidentally the best, along with a slew of over 50 top-shelf guests, ranging from musicians inspired by their work, family members, documentary directors, songwriting collaborators, Beach Boys authors, producers, touring band members, and for good measure, some of the Beach Boys themselves. I'm your host, Dave Gebrow, and special thanks goes out to co-producers Chuck Granata, Dennis Dyken, and Mark Freed, without whom this series would not have happened. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on the Beach Boys Pet Sounds. In this episode, we feature the next entry in the Chuck Granata Pet Sounds interview series. By now, Beach Boy Bruce Johnston has retired from being interviewed, so this epic unheard 2001 interview for Chuck Granata's Pet Sounds book is absolutely priceless, especially seeing as his fanboy love for Chuck's Frank Sinatra book wound up contributing to a level of unvarnished honesty that's super rare for the Beach Boy universe. Here are just a few of the many things that Bruce discusses with Discograffiti in this podcast. Bruce's opinion of Smiley Smile, what it's like to be scolded in a session and to have it actually make the final mix, Bruce's efforts to promote Pet Sounds in the UK at the time, Bruce's advice to Chuck on how best to approach the various Beach Boys in order to get the most out of his interviews with them, and the roles that the group members played both in the vocal blend and in their importance to Brian. Here he is then, Bruce Johnston.
So you think that the Smiley Smile album is vastly underrated?
It's unbelievably underrated because people, they were so disappointed in Brian abandoning the project, and they are so tantalized by hearing on the 2020 album, have you heard that album?
Sure.
Our Prayer?
Yep.
And Cabinescence? So they're so tantalized by that, and then as the years move on, I'm changing phones. Hang on. You there?
Yep, I'm here.
As the years move on, the legend grows. So if anybody starts talking about, how great, the aborted version is, they get a little nuts. But what you will find is, imagine you're 50 years old and you decide, God, and you're divorced. I've got to look up my 16-year-old girlfriend from high school. And you find her and you go, uh-oh, oops. So anyway, it's the most underrated album. First of all, the people around Brian after Pet Sounds were telling Brian, sometimes we get accused of Brian having sung all the vocal parts. Wrong. But the people got around Brian and just, you don't need the Beach Boys, Brian. I mean, what do you need them for? Stuff like, you can do all the vocals. I mean, it's Brian. We love you. Oh, Brian. By the way, Brian, this drug will stretch your creativity, So I think that possibly, this is my outside looking in, listening to everybody talk over the years, maybe the way Dad treated Brian, combined with his disappointment, maybe in Capitol not supporting his amazing Pet Sound, combined with drugs altering how you judge what to do in life, maybe that sent him into his bedroom, and he just withdrew. All that stuff in the negative blender. How would you like it if I published your Sinatra book and maybe took a chapter from every other book you wrote and put it out, the best of your writing, 2 months after your Sinatra book's released, and plus I'm promoting it? Well, how would you like it if I moved your promotion dollars, if you have them, over to a best of what you wrote while you're trying to promote your Sinatra book? You'd be pissed.
Yeah, well, I'd be crushed.
Well, there you go. You came up with a word I didn't even think of. So maybe Brian wasn't one to yell and scream, but maybe he was one to get crushed and withdraw.
Which is, wholly understandable.
And maybe like a little kid realizing, gosh, I have to be cute. But, maybe he woke up one day and realized that maybe between the band, the the business management, William Morris, and the label, from what he contributed, that he's supposed to be brilliant upon command. And maybe that's not something you can do.
I think it's very difficult to do if you're creative.
We've got Nelson Riddle. I would also think that Brian has the same magic as Debussy. Again, I always hoped Brian would get into the film world, because as far as classical music goes, that's a tough one, because you have to compete with what was classical 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Film music, like John Williams, you could really get into some stuff. And I always thought, God, wouldn't that be great for Brian? But it's never happened. I mean, especially, when we talked about the strings and don't talk and stuff. So my speculation probably shouldn't creep too much into your book. It's really more about what was going on with Brian. I think that if you want to encapsulate me a little bit, you can say basically, Bruce Johnston is very similar to a very ardent fan that actually got invited inside the studio to record. So I kind of have a different view than being in the original band, because I came from the outside, as we all are, to the inside. I wasn't burnt out. I was so thrilled with the music, and I mean, imagine saying, hey, come on, join the Beatles. What?
Right. Right.
I think that while we were in Japan, Brian sent us over the mix of Sloop John B. This is before I knew there was a Pet Sounds. He dropped out 4 bars of the track in the mix, and it sounded great, and loved it. And then I came home, and I was 23 years old. And I, of course, unlike the band, was unmarried. So here I'd gone from being in the music business, doing all those great little early things, the Ritchie Valens forward things. Barbara Ann has gone top 1 or something in Billboard, really huge. So we stopped in Hawaii, do a concert, I come home, but my mindset at the time was, having come from the outside, trying to get into the record business, getting into it, and suddenly within the first year, I've made 2 Beach Boy albums and sung on a few hits. Ooh, gee, I'm making some decent money. I've got a new XKE, and I'm single. I go from that mode to taking my girlfriend at the time. I come from dinner in Beverly Hills over to the tracking session for God Only Knows. I walk in, and I realize, just listening to what was in the room, I realized, aha, this is definitely wonderful and totally beyond anything that I've heard Brian do. And that's when I started paying attention to Pet Sounds, which happened quickly. The tracks were recorded, unlike today. I mean, it rolled out quickly.
All right, that concludes your free sneak peek into today's Patreon episode. If you want to hear the rest of it, just visit patreon.com/discograffiti and either purchase this podcast by itself for $4, or better yet, subscribe at the major tier and get access to Discograffiti's 4 weekly episodes. That's Friday's free episode, the Sunday Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound episode, which showcases Patreon members and the Elephant Six world, your Monday bonus episode, and your Wednesday early release, ad-free, super extended director's cut of that Friday's show. Please keep in mind this is entirely how I support my wife and 6-year-old son, so don't risk feeling badly about yourself by not supporting Discograffiti. Become a member so you don't miss a single thing at patreon.com/discograffiti.